Hello? No. Can you try yours? See if it's any different. If it's just mine. Hello? 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 I mean, I can talk loud, but I'm just worried about the live stream.
Well, you're recording on the live stream, just not to the speakers.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll get started speaking loudly, and I'll apologize so once he figures out the speakers and I blow everyone's eardrums. Okay. Do you want me to get started while you figure that?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, great. Okay, well, welcome again to the RSU 5 Board of Directors meeting. It is Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. We are here at the Freeport High School Library. We are missing, Anna isn't with us this evening. I'm not sure about Colin. Hopefully he'll be joining us shortly. But we will get started in the meantime with the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, good. Colin's joining us. All right. So do I have a motion for consideration and approval of the minutes from the April 30th, May 7th, and May 14th, 2025 meeting as presented, barring any errors or omissions? Cheyenne, thank you. Kelly, second. All those in favor? None opposed. Great. So we will, adjustments.
I have one this evening. I'd like to add under 14 personnel, letter E, consideration and approval to employ a fourth grade teacher at Durham Community School for the 2025-2026 school year.
Wonderful. Great. So we will move right into good news and recognition.
Can you hear me? Oh. Oh. Sorry.
Can you hear her?
We'll see if I don't know if it's on. Is it on, Jordan? Do we know if this is on?
Oh, they're all on.
So this one's on too. Okay. Well, maybe I'll speak loudly. This is a special time for us to gather the first meeting in June, because we have several folks this evening that we're going to be honoring for their service to the students of RSU 5. So I'm going to call up some of our administrative team members to recognize these folks. So first, I'd like Alicia Morris to come up for Heather Gilpin.
I'm not sure where to face. I'll do this so I can look at you, Heather. All right. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So, you hear me? Yeah, okay. So after 30 years of dedicated and compassionate service in education, we extend our heartfelt congratulations to Dr. Gilpin on her well-deserved retirement. Throughout her remarkable Throughout her remarkable career, Heather has made a lasting impact on countless students, families, and colleagues. Whether as a special education teacher, administrator, licensed clinical social worker, or a school psychologist at RSU 5, Her work has consistently focused on supporting students' mental health and well-being while fostering a school environment where every child felt valued, seen, and heard. With unmatched empathy, professionalism, and unwavering dedication, Dr. Gilpin has been a trusted advocate and voice for student success. Her guidance has empowered generations of students to overcome obstacles and realize their full potential. Colleagues have long admired Heather for her wisdom, collaborative spirit, and unrelenting focus on what truly matters, ensuring the well-being of children. On a personal note, Heather's support during my first year here has been nothing short of amazing. Her wealth of knowledge and generosity in sharing it has been invaluable, and I am grateful to have had the opportunity to learn from her, and she will be deeply missed by me and by all of us. While we certainly will miss her presence in our school community, we celebrate this well-earned milestone and wish Heather a retirement filled with joy, good health, and exciting adventures. May you and Mark continue to build boats, planes, and bikes, play with your toys, and sail off into the sunset with Winston, your labradoodle. Thank you, Heather, for 30 incredible years of service to our public schools. Your legacy will continue to inspire us all. We'll miss you.
And from Freeport High School, can we have Charlie Mellon to come up to represent the high school and honor a retiree?
Okay, thank you. So I'm Charlie Mellon, the assistant principal here. Jen Golko, our principal, wishes she could be here, but she can't. And so I'm going to share a few words on her behalf, and then I got a few of my own as well. So from Jen, I've had the pleasure of, Kim has been a part of RSU 5 schools for 25 years, where she started her work at Pownell Elementary as the special education secretary for 10 years and then shifted to Freeport High School, where she has been a vital member of our guidance office for 15 years. Kim's role involves so many different things that impact our students and families, such as navigating Power School, transcripts, grades, schedules, new enrollments, setting up meetings for teams of faculty and staff members, and so much more. Of course, a huge part of our role is supporting, encouraging, and showing so much patience to our high school students. For those of you that know and love teenagers, we know that sometimes their emergency is absolutely everyone's emergency, especially when it comes to waiting until the last hour when they need a transcript sent to a college or when they want to see a school counselor. And at that very second, no matter what the counselors are doing, Kim handles all of these requests, timely or not, with patience and kindness and respect and her ever-cool demeanor. Kim might be facing 140 seniors who have an emergency at that very moment with their transcript, ninth graders who can't find their classes, or a student that is having a tough day. And she never takes on these situations, she always takes on these situations with empathy and grace and somehow never seems rattled by it. Our current colleagues and staff members use some of these words and phrases to describe Kim: caring, helpful, patient, empathetic, flexible, kind, and an amazing teammate and staff member. One of our beloved former guidance counselors, Jim Lincoln, shared some of his thoughts about Kim. He says, "A well-functioning student services office begins when one walks through the door. A cheerful greeting, ability to listen to students, faculty, and parents, and the skills to triage until a counselor is available. Kim Callanan is adept at all of these skills. Of course, clerical skills and a thorough knowledge of technology are also essential. However, working with a, quote, well-aged counselor, as he was during his time with Kim, there was a more essential skill: mind reading. Each fall, counselors are asked to write recommendations in support of the post-secondary aspirations of their charges. Rather than type mine, I would write them longhand, often taking up 10 legal-sized pages to describe and support my students. Readable cursive has never been my forte. And often I would find Kim huddled with another secretary trying to decipher my thoughts. Rarely would she have to give up and come to me for the answer, which in most cases I could resolve. Over my 41 years as a secondary educator, Kim Calnan is atop the list of secretaries with whom I have worked. Kim's colleagues in the guidance office, Michelle Arms, also shared her thoughts. Michelle said, "When I think of Kim, one word comes to mind, keel. Like the keel of a ship, Kim has been the steadying force in our guidance office, always quietly aware of the direction of the wind and adjusting our sails to keep us on course. Her calm presence, attention to detail, and ability to navigate the unexpected have grounded us through every season. But Kim is more than steady. She's sunshine when the clouds roll in. No matter how chaotic the day, she brings warmth and optimism that lifts everyone around her. Whether helping a student, colleague, or managing the demands of her role as our registrar, Kim leads with grace, humor, and heart. Wishing you smooth seas and sunny skies in this next chapter." So that was from Jen and some of the colleagues, as you've heard. Now something from my perspective. Kim is the heart and soul of our guidance office. She can do everything from decoding Power School to knowing when a student or a counselor or an administrator needed a kind word or a tissue. She's part secretary, part therapist, part wizard. Kim, your warmth, empathy, and uncanny ability to find missing, misplaced Q files will be dearly missed. Enjoy retirement. You've earned it, but don't be surprised if I call you when I can't get Power School to work. We are so happy for you, for your well-deserved retirement. We know you'll enjoy it. Spend time with your family and those amazing grandbabies. We are so grateful for the work that you have done at FHS, for the time, the heart, and the energy. Thank you, Kim. Yeah.
And now to recognize retirees from Freeport Middle School is Dr. Fournier.
Good evening. It's an honor to stand before you tonight to recognize and celebrate the extraordinary career of a truly remarkable educator, Kelly, our dedicated and visionary 7th grade science teacher at Freeport Middle. For the past 15 years, Kelly has been a cornerstone of our school community. From the moment she joined FMS in 2010, she brought not just a deep knowledge of science and technology, but a passion for hands-on, real-world learning that has transformed the way our students engage with science and with learning itself. FMS has been more than just a workplace for Kelly. She reported it's like a family. And although she's taught in 5 different middle schools across her career, this one has felt like home. Her commitment to our students and staff has helped shape the heart of our school. Kelly has never simply taught science. She's helped students experience it. One of her most outstanding contributions was developing a rich place-based field trip experience for all 7th graders that continues to have a lasting impact. I've gotten to go on that trip. It's amazing. She partnered with both Wolf Neck Farm and the Desert of Maine to design an immersive experience where students could compare farming practices and directly observe the long-term outcomes of land use. But Kelly didn't stop there. She built an entire curriculum around this experience, creating lessons for staff to use at both sites. Today, both Wolf Neck and Desert of Maine continue to use Kelly's materials with other schools, a testament to the quality and thoughtfulness of her work. And that's just one example. Whether she was launching student conferences with local scientists, designing expeditionary learning projects, or mentoring her peers, Kelly always prioritized depth, rigor, and relevance. Her students consistently produce the highest quality work, not because it's expected, but because Kelly accepts nothing less. What she teaches, students remember. Her dedication to presenting material in multiple ways, supporting every learner, and holding them accountable for their growth is nothing short of admirable. Beyond the classroom, Kelly's leadership has helped guide our entire school and district. Through her work on the FMS Leadership Committee, Technology Committee, RSU 5's Professional Evaluation and Growth Team, she has shaped the systems that support meaningful instruction and professional learning that we have here today. She's mentored new educators, led technology integration initiatives, helped align science instruction with district-wide proficiency standards, and one of her most impactful contributions came through her work to bring laptops to students and teachers across Maine, helping bridge the digital divide and empowering learners with tools for success. Her expertise, her voice, her insight have made us better. Kelly's career is a portrait of innovation, integrity, and impact. Over 3 decades, she has worked in schools across Maine, from Portland to Bonnie Eagle to RSU 5, bringing energy, creativity, and heart to every role she's taken on. Her influence reaches far beyond our district's boundaries, from statewide technology trainings to presenting at conferences, contributing to advisory boards, and helping shape how science and technology are taught across Maine. Kelly, while we are excited for you to begin this next chapter, we are also deeply aware of the incredible legacy you leave behind. Your students, your colleagues, and this district are better because of you. You've given your full self to this work with excellence, with passion, and with purpose. On behalf of the district, and most of us at FMS are just going to cry for the next 8 days or whatever, our deepest gratitude. I wish you a retirement filled with joy, adventure, and maybe just a little bit of science. You've earned it, and you'll be missed more than you know. Congratulations.
Now to honor our Mass Landing School retirees, Principal Grimm.
So at Mass Landing School, we do have a tradition of singing our retirees out, but that will be done at Mass Landing School. It's probably better for all of you. It is my absolute pleasure to get to honor Susan Martling in her retirement. Susan has just finished her 13th year as our literacy specialist at Mass Landing School. And within that time, she has been pivotal to supporting our striving readers. Her effectiveness really lies in a combination of 2 amazing strengths. The first is she has an incredibly deep knowledge of the foundation of reading development and has always been hungry, the 10 years I've known her, to deepen that knowledge. And then she couples that with an amazingly deep knowledge of her students. She knows their interests, she knows their strengths, and then she utilizes that information thoughtfully to build connections with students and to inform the reading instruction she offers. In addition to these strengths, Susan is incredibly curious and has a deep orientation as a learner herself that stands out among her many strengths. This hunger for knowledge has contributed to her participating in year-long training in a structured literacy approach based on Orton-Gillingham methodology several years ago, and that's a skill set she's continued to refine in the time since that training. Even this year, her last, she approached me mid-year asking to take yet more professional learning, often on her own time, including weekends, to deepen her skill set as she looked to best meet the needs of students, always with a mindset of our students growing and is she impacting them as readers. A reading teacher at heart, the hallways outside her room are lined with bookcases of books she loves to get in students' hands, and the hallways are lined with poetry that she has handwritten on the walls to support their fluency. She takes pride in connecting kids with those things. Based on these strengths, it probably comes as no surprise to you that Susan has had a deeply impactful influence on the students she serves, their learning, their progress, and their identity as readers. which is probably the most important thing, are all reflective of the deep investment she has made in our school and our community. And for that, we are deeply grateful. And we wish her the very best in retirement and the adventures, which probably will include some sailing along the way. We want to see some photos. Thank you, Susan.
Now our Pownell Elementary School honorees, Principal Holly Johnson.
Maybe. I am so honored to recognize Linda D'Amico in her 6 years of service here in RSU 5. Linda first joined Freeport Middle School in the fall of 2019 as the school's office secretary. She knew she was entering into a new world because she had not been in public schools prior to that. But what she didn't know is 6 months later, the pandemic would hit. She persevered through that. Pownell was fortunate a couple years later when Linda joined us in 2023 as the school's administrative secretary. She brought with her the wealth of knowledge of the district that she had gained, not only working in the middle school, but she is a community member and a parent of RSU 5. So she brought a lot of assets to Pownell in that way. She already knew many families and had student connections. Additionally, she brought her finance knowledge from her first career that was at LL Bean for many years. Linda's smile has daily greeted students, families, and staff. She is well organized and has developed new systems and procedures for the office and the school. When she was hired, there was a question kind of about triage. You give her a list of things, the phone's ringing, a student walks in and needs medical attention. A parent shows up and says, I need to speak with Mrs. Johnson. And you're in the middle of a project that needs a deadline. And you have to decide what you're going to do and when. Little did she know that would be a daily, multiple times daily, scenario that she got to live for the next 2 years, which she did with patience, professionalism, and always a great smile. We thank Linda, and I wish her the best in her next chapter. She's going to be dearly missed, and while she's only been at Pownell for 2 years, it feels like much, much longer. Thank you.
To recognize our Durham Community School retirees, we're going to have Assistant Principal Harrison. And she did say she was Mr. Pidden's proxy this evening. More hair, less accent.
All right. So I have some words from Will for Adele. Adele joined Durham Community School in 2000 and has been a dedicated and valued member of our community for the past 25 years. During her time here, she has witnessed and helped navigate significant changes, including the construction of our new school building. She will never forget the weeks of well drilling for the geothermal system that took place just outside her classroom window. Adele was also here during the district's transition to RSU 5, providing steady leadership throughout. Throughout her career, Adele has primarily served as the foundation of our 5th grade team, working for many years along her colleague, Patty McLaughlin. In more recent years, she has also mentored and supported numerous new teachers, offering a calm, consistent approach to teaching and acting as a source of guidance and encouragement. Many young educators have found their footing thanks to Adele's wisdom and quiet leadership. One area where Adele's impact truly shines is in science education. She has been a passionate advocate and leader in this subject throughout her time at Durham. Her curiosity and dedication to continual learning have brought richer, more engaging science experiences to our students, enriching our entire school community. Although her primary role has been in 5th grade, Adele has also taught 6th grade in recent years, demonstrating remarkable flexibility and a team-first mindset. She willingly adapted to shifting enrollment needs to ensure all students received the support they needed. Over the past 25 years, Adele has positively impacted the lives of hundreds of children. We are very grateful for her unwavering commitment, her thoughtful mentorship, and her enduring contributions to our school. Adele, we wish you all the best in your well-deserved retirement.
So it's my honor tonight to honor retiree Cynthia Alexander. I guess my partner in crime at the central office. When we honor retirees, we often hear a lot about their contributions to RSU 5. As we honor Cynthia tonight, I'd like to take a look back at her 30-plus year career in education. Cynthia started out at UMO and got a BS in business administration. I think that took a turn, Cynthia. Then she went on to get her master's in elementary ed and her CAS in ed leadership. She began her career back in 1995. She was a K-2 classroom teacher at Etna Dixmont School for 5 years. She was and also a reading recovery teacher for 4 years there. In 2004, she moved into leadership. She's been the curriculum coordinator at MSAD 23 and MSAD 38, and as you know, all the MSADs are RSUs, and people married, divorced, and all that through the years. She's been a principal at Etna Dixmont School and also at Turner Elementary School, so she had 11 years as a principal. And in 2016, RSU 5 was very fortunate to welcome her as our assistant superintendent. Cynthia wears many, many, many hats in RSU 5 that people may or may not be aware of. She's the liaison to the board's policy committee to ensure policies are reviewed and revised on time and keep with the spirit of the law. She's chaired the PEPG committee for the district. She's an active member of the professional certification committee at the state level. She's organized PD throughout the years for RSU 5, including onboarding many new teachers. She's our affirmative action officer. She's the district assessment coordinator for all the state and local assessments. She does the curriculum development and coordination of curriculum throughout the district. She oversees all our title grants. And if you know anything about title grants and the federal rules, you must dot your I's and cross your T's. And she's very good at that. She's a strategic member of the superintendent's cabinet, and she's a leader at the state level for certification. How others would describe Cynthia: a caring spouse, a dedicated daughter and parent. She's inquisitive, meticulous, organized. She's competitive. Believe me, I know that when we went together to Women's in Leadership and there were some competitions, she usually won. She's full of gold sparkles. And if you watch the administrative team's opening day performances, you know she's a great dancer and quite the gymnast. Cynthia, on behalf of RSU 5, congratulations on your well-deserved retirement.
So I get the honor of recognizing Superintendent Jean Scarappa on her retirement. This night is always very bittersweet for board members. You know, some of us have been here a few months, some of us have been here, feels like forever. But you all have been here long before us, and just the appreciation for all of the retirees can't be overstated. You know, you deliver on what we as a board sort of visualize and conceptualize and, what if, and you guys deliver for us every day. And I just wanted to say thank you for that. So Jean joined RSU 5 3 years ago, but her journey through education began long before that, 38 years, I believe, of education, starting up in Windsor and then getting a whole lot closer to home here in Brunswick, where she was a teacher, she was a principal, she headed up their curriculum. She went back to being a principal when they built a new school and said, we need you. She, I think Will mentioned the team first mentality, and that is very much where Jean comes from a place of, so she became a principal. She then left to move into the central office as an assistant principal for 3 years in RSU 3. And then she moved home to the Lincoln Lee area and became the principal for RSU 67 for 4 years before we were able to bring her back to what in our hearts is her home, where she was a superintendent. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say? Sorry, not principal. She was a superintendent in RSU 67, and we were able to bring her back. So while she worked in Brunswick all those years, she was a community member here in Freeport. So her children went through the Freeport schools. So she had a place in her heart for RSU 5, which we 100% appreciated and were able to take advantage of and bring her back here. And the work she's done with us, while not a long time, will be lasting. She's guided us through some challenging times to be a school board and to run a district. And there's so many things that, the lawyers would tell me I can't say on these types of things. So I won't. Jane and I have had a lot of discussions, late night discussions, very early morning discussions, and, we all see the administrator and the educational leader for our district. I see a woman that I admire. I see a wife. I see a mother who drops what she's doing when her children need her, and I think that's the type of model we want for a district of who we want to be. So this old house will not be the same without you, but I always try to take away when someone retires and moves on, what is the sort of the core piece that I'll take with me from what I've learned from them. And for you, that saying is, time is short and kids can't wait. So thank you. And I will say that I think you and Victor have earned a redo of the trip in Jamaica, and that would be my suggestion for your first retirement activity. So thank you. Or Ginny will get mad. We all know the real boss around here.
Yeah. Thank you. We do.
Okay, now Phoebe. Oh wait, before Phoebe starts, I would just like to acknowledge and congratulate Phoebe on her Falcon Pride Award given to her at the tennis awards last week, so well done.
Thank you. I love tennis, and I got the Pride and Character Award, so I didn't get like an actual like athletic award. And my plaque was smaller than the varsity players, but that's fine. Also, my printer broke. So, but it's the craziest time of the year, as I always say. We have finals, which start a week from today, which is amazing. So students are studying really hard and preparing for the end of the year and for the summer and for next year. It's also senior week right now. So our seniors graduate this Sunday, which is crazy and insane. So they finished up their senior projects. They did all their presentations, which were incredible. They worked so hard on everything. And now they are celebrating their hard work from the last 4 years. And on Sunday, they will graduate. We are also having student leader elections coming up for class officers and student council members for next year. And we recently had the annual Walk for Charity, which is run by the student council. And the whole school takes part in an event, which is a walk through downtown to give back to the community. And this year we raised a lot of money for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. We also had our academic awards night, I think last week, and tons of students were recognized for their hard work in all subject areas. And we also had the scholarship night for seniors and some juniors who were awarded scholarships for their next pass after high school. And I also have some congrats to members of the National Technical Honor Society for their outstanding success and achievement in career and technical education. So big congrats for Sierra Best, Christian Doyle, Caleb Hill, Margaret Nichols, and Megan Randall, who were accepted into the National Technical Honor Society. So yeah, we're super busy, super crazy, and having fun. It's warm out, and yeah.
And then it sounds like there is a very raucous girls lacrosse game going on just outside the door. I mean, all that cheering was for you guys. It actually. Thank you, Phoebe. So we are at the public comment area, and I'm just going to pause and say thank you so much to the retirees. You don't have to stay for the whole meeting. Feel free to go. You guys have done your duty. So, yeah, and don't forget snacks. They're good. Take one of each. So we are at public comment. So if anyone wanted to step to the mic on their way out, feel free. We do have another opportunity at the end of the meeting if someone would like. But we will keep moving with item 8 on the agenda, superintendent's report.
As retirement is on the horizon for me, this will likely be my final official superintendent's report pending the successful hire of a new superintendent. So tonight I'd like to highlight some of our achievements as a district this year. The district's financial outlook remains strong. The establishment of additional funds to fund our reserve accounts supports the district meeting unanticipated need after the budget has been developed and adopted. We've expanded our use of local produce, fresh fish, and our experienced school nutrition staff continues to incorporate more scratch cooking in our schools. We have a vehicle replacement plan, which will ensure we have a top-notch fleet to transport our children to school, field trips, and extracurricular activities. Our fantastic driving staff is small but mighty and extremely dedicated. We've completed an energy audit with an articulated plan on how to complete many, many much-needed larger projects, such as boiler replacements and upgraded lighting. This summer, our tech team and facility teams are doing a heavy lift to ensure the completion of significant life safety projects in all our buildings that will support the safety measures we have in place and keep our staff and students safe. We've successfully launched the data collection phase of a new strategic plan, which will inform this district's work well into the future. We continue to attract amazing educators to join our already strong teaching force. This evening, I will ask you to approve 5 more teachers to join our team next year. Our achievement data remains strong, and our chronic absenteeism rate has markedly declined in our schools this year. On to page 2. There's a lot of achievements. This did not just happen. This did not just happen, but by chance. It is a direct result of the hard work done by our dedicated, caring staff. We have an incredibly accomplished team of administrators who are data-driven, thoughtful, and lead by example. On Sunday, we will celebrate the achievements of 140 graduates as we proudly launch them into the world. This would not have happened without a dedicated village of staff, parents, and community members. The board continues to grapple to revise policies that are in alignment with law and to courageously adopt them to protect all of our children. I've gone to school since 1970. I've been an educator for 38. Much has changed during that time. I encourage us all to continue to do what is right, even when doing what is right is hard. I can't imagine what it's going to be like this fall to see those big yellow buses rolling, and I'm not going to school. But one thing I know for certain, RSU 5 will continue to grow and change to meet the needs of all of our children. Remember, time is short. Kids can't wait. I sincerely thank you for the privilege of being your superintendent.
I stole your line. I'm
I
sorry.
know, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Resignations and retirements, I have some to announce this evening. And this would be at the end of the school year. Charles Fear, Mass Landing School Ed Tech. Dr. Paige Fournier, FMS Assistant Principal. Jody Caulfield, FMS RTI ELA Teacher. Melinda Carr, MLS Ed Tech. Dr. Heather Gilpin, School Psychologist for the purpose of retirement. And Susan Martling, MLS Literacy Specialist for the purpose of retirement. And that's the end of the report this evening.
You want me to go over the meetings? Okay. So in your packets, you will see, I just want to take a quick, before we go on to the board meetings, one thing I noticed that was glaringly missing from Cynthia's retirement speech about like all the different things she does here. Well, the minutes, I was thinking the calendar. When we make her go duke it out with the other districts about when we want school to be. For me, that is like the most important thing Cynthia does for us. And I appreciate it, and I don't know how we're going to do it without you, honestly. So, anyway, in your packets, green sheet of paper is the board meetings for next year. We're not even done this year. We're already talking about next year. So the board retreat is scheduled for August 27th. So just a reminder, that starts earlier in the afternoon. That's at 4 o'clock. Looks like we've already got it blocked for the Hilton Garden Inn, so that's wonderful. That'll help us get a jump start in the upcoming year. And then you can see through, our typical 2 meetings, second and fourth Wednesday of the month. We'll have one in Pownell and one in Durham in the fall. We'll start the budget process with the recommended budget in January, and then we start adding in a few extra meetings to make sure we get through all of those budget discussions. The annual budget meeting next year will be May 13th, and that will be held here at FHS. June 3rd it's just a regular meeting, and then June 10th will be our final meeting where hopefully we are talking about the approved budget for next year. So same sort of very similar structure to what we've had in the past, but wanted folks to have it so that they can get it in their calendars. All right. Administrator reports. Kelly.
So included in your packet this evening are the expenditures through April 30, 2025. We were about 94.2% expended and encumbered at that point. We've largely now gone through the month of May as well. So we've taken care of the the majority of the last part of the ordering for the school year. We will be talking at finance next week about any potential transfers that may be needed. There are a little more transportation repairs that we then anticipated. So I am anticipating a move between our Article 1 and Article 8 that the Finance Committee will consider next week at their meeting. Otherwise than that, we're on track. We're roughly around the area of percent of spending where we were last year at this time. So I don't really see any other areas of concern.
Questions for Kelly? Thank you. All right. So next on our administrator reports, FHS student cell phone use update. And I believe Charlie is going to do that for us.
Okay, thank you. This is a hot topic here at Freeport High School, cell phones, and has been for years, I would say, as Phoebe, I'm sure, can attest to. In terms of an update, I guess I would say that, this year we changed our policy pretty significantly at the beginning of the year, starting the year. Prior to this year, cell phone kind of rules were at teacher discretion. So different teachers had different rules about cell phones in their class. Some allowed it, some didn't. And that wasn't working very well. I think it was the kids had a hard time navigating, what was supposed to happen in which classroom. And it led to confusion. And then with the confusion, it became very hard to manage. So our high school faculty leadership team last summer in our kind of yearly retreats decided to tighten up the cell phone rules. And obviously we're in tune with all the stuff in the media, all the research that's coming out about cell phone. We took all that into consideration and decided this year that we were going to kind of have a policy that was much stricter. And so this year, we started the year with basically a ban in all classes, meaning that students would have to come into each classroom. When they came in, there was a dedicated holder for cell phones. Usually it was like a shoe rack. Usually they're shoe racks. And they were supposed to come in, bring their phones into the classroom, put them in that shoe rack, and leave them there for the entire class period. Then when they left, they could go to their next class. In between classes, they were allowed to go on their phones. At lunch, they're allowed to go on their phones. Before school, after school, allowed to go on their phones. But during any academic setting, they were not supposed to be on their phones. And that includes, obviously, academic classes, but also study hall. Our advisory period was another place where they were not supposed to be on their phones. At the beginning of the year, it was a little bit of an adjustment, but it was going pretty well, I would say. It went pretty well. We had lots of parent support for this. Kids were adjusting, I'll say that, to it. Kids were adjusting to it. And it started slipping in the winter. In the winter, we saw a lot, especially during advisory, kids pushing back on having to put away their cell phones during the advisory block. That's where they really didn't want to do it. And as we've all been to school, and you guys know that different teachers have different personalities, and some of those personalities want to everything's by the book. Others are a little bit more they want to kind of work with students and support students in different ways. And so we started in the winter, started seeing a little bit more of that at play, where and not in any bad way, but sometimes teachers would let kids use cell phones as a reward or motivation. If you guys work really hard for 60 minutes, I'll let you use your phones for the last 15 minutes and things like that, or other variables like that would come into play. And again, once we start seeing these kinds of things, it starts creating confusion for kids. Well, this teacher lets me use it sometimes, so why won't you let me use it sometimes? Things like that started happening. And at that point, we started talking to staff about should we allow kids to use cell phones in advisory. We kind of started bringing that up, and clearly the teachers thought that was not a good idea. That we should stick with the advisor, like not allowing it during advisory. So we stuck with it, and things are continuing to slip. I would say this time of year, especially, we're seeing a lot more kids on their phones. Teachers are having a hard time enforcing it. There's lots of pushback, I would say, in the classrooms from students who do not feel the need to do it. And so we've got some more feedback from teachers. Actually, this week and last week in our PLCs, they started talking about cell phones and how it's going. And we've seen the news about these locked bags. A lot of people, the Yonder bags is one of them. And so we started asking about like going to something like that. 77% of the teachers that responded to our form want to see a locked bag. I would say there is no perfect policy. I mean, whatever policy we put in place, it's going to be, hard to enforce without support, without some sort of kind of school-wide support. I think everybody's trying, and there has been improvement. I would say this year there definitely has been improvement from prior years, but it is still a big issue. It is still, a distraction in schools, in our school. We've reached out to other schools that have implemented the honor bags or the locked bags, I should say. I talked to Eric Varney, who is the principal up at Morse High School, who implemented it this year. He said it was revolutionary. It was his word that he told me on the phone. He said that it's not only like because the kids just aren't on their phones, but he said that classrooms are just a totally different culture. The kids are focused. But I know that these are expensive. I think that what we've tried to do, no matter what the policy is, whether it's cell phones or advisory or things like one in, one out, when we're trying to enforce these policies, we've got to get buy-in, and there's not always the buy-in across the board from every teacher, and that can create confusion. When we can do something like locked bags, where it takes it out of the teacher's hands, I think that's better for the teachers, and I think it's better for enforcement of the policies. One thing we have not gotten enough feedback from is the students themselves. I do not believe the students themselves would support locked bags, but I know that Phoebe can talk more about that. But we want to get their feedback too. Another thing we tried to do is work to get a organization called Project Reboot to Freeport High School. Project Reboot is basically a one-man kind of show who kind of goes around and speaks at schools all across the country. And they're out of California. He's a very charismatic presenter, and he doesn't necessarily talk to kids about not using their phone. He just talks to kids about what happens to them while they're using their phone. And his message is, don't use your phone. Your message is, here's what's happening. Here's what's happened to me. Here's how you can use it better. And I've heard just amazing things about that. We tried to get funding. We wrote a grant to get this guy to come, but unfortunately we did not get the grant. But that's something we want to continue to look into, to kind of, not just talk about like banning things and the kind of that stuff, but also really try to educate kids on phones, how to use them, what it's doing to them, that kind of stuff. I would also say that our leadership team every year, like we did last June, we're meeting on June 18th and June 20th to kind of reflect on the year. And one of the things we're going to be reflecting on is our cell phone policy and how it relates to our strategic plan. So we will definitely be thinking about what changes we can do in the short term for the next school year, and how we can be more consistent across the board as a school, and kind of putting a policy in place that we can enforce, and that seems manageable for our teachers, as well as, and keeping our students in mind as well. It's a big topic here at school, obviously, and we hear about it in the news, and so we're happy to be discussing this with you. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments or.
Questions for Charlie? Danielle?
Well, I have a question. When you say that it's like hard for the teachers to enforce it, do we not have some type of disciplinary action plan set up? Because I feel like if we can't control the cell phone, are we not controlling other things also inside the school?
Yeah, that's a good question. And when I say it's hard, I think it takes a lot of time up at the beginning of class for them. They're spending a lot of energy, kind of like reminding kids, getting kids to put it in the shoe racks, the what we call, those are where they're supposed to put it. And there are like consequences. There's first time's a detention, the second time's 2 detentions, third time's a parent meeting. The parent has to come get the phone. Those types of things are happening all the time. Still not necessarily making a big difference. I mean, like detentions and things, that's a disciplinary consequence that has mixed results no matter what we're talking about, like in terms of a deterrent or change behavior, in order ways to change behavior. But it's just a thing that's happening a lot, and so that's just taking up their time.
Have we thought of just basically the habitual offenders, they can't have a cell phone at school at all?
We have not discussed that. I mean, we do have some kids who are supposed to drop off their phones early in the morning on their way here. We definitely do have that with some habitual offenders, and that is helping. That is helping, but it's not everybody.
I'm sort of curious. Those schools who have used the locked bags, have they found? They are expensive. Have they found very many students trying to circumvent, putting their phones in bags by, say, bringing in another phone, for example, to try to get around the rules?
I think they have found some of that. Yes, they have. And there's, I've heard of. I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard of there's TikTok videos out there about how to hack the bags, and there will definitely be some of that. There's not one perfect policy for sure. But yes, there are definitely things like that going on in those schools. But it takes it out of the classroom. I mean, if it's clear that you cannot bring these things to school and they are supposed to be in a bag, then there's no kid walking down the hallway on their phone like, oh, my teacher said I could do this, or there's none of that kind of stuff happens. So it's more black and white. And I think easier to deal with and less negotiating, if you will, when it's like the school-wide, no phones in school kind of a thing, if that makes sense. If they're supposed to be in a bag, everything's supposed to be in a bag. You don't take it out in between classes ever, then it's very black and white, and kind of easier to manage, if that makes sense.
Just regarding the bags and how it would actually work, I'm just curious, would it be like when they walk in the front door of the high school, or like they're responsible for putting their own phone in their own locked bag, or like how does that actually logistically work for?
Well, I think schools do it differently. My understanding from Morse is when they walk into the high school, the administrators are there and they check every kid. They talk to every kid and ask them to show them their bag and to show that their phone is in their bag. And he said that took a lot to get used to at the very beginning, but it was hard. He said it was very, very hard at the very beginning, but it was worth it, he said. And they still do it now, and now it's just part of the routine, and
So when the phone goes in the bag, though, is it set in a specific place in the school?
No, it's in there.
It goes.
They keep them with it, and they travels with them. And then at the end of the day, they have these magnet things that they can unlock it when they leave the school.
Okay.
that's how it works at Morse. But there's other schools that I'm sure do it very differently. There's a few more schools next year that are going to be doing something similar, like Mount Ararat, I think, is doing it. Portland is moving towards something like this. So there are other schools that are moving that way, and they might have different procedures. But I know that's the procedure at Morse High School.
Thank you so much for gathering this information and sharing with us tonight, and for explaining the challenges that are being experienced. I think we recognize that this is a really complex issue. There's so many different factors, and so I appreciate you again coming to share. I have a couple of questions and thoughts. One, how much would the Yonder bags be for high school? Do you know?
I don't know exactly. We don't have like an exact quote, but somewhere in the neighborhood of like $15,000, I think.
Okay.
So I think the Mount Ararat, for their budget, I don't know if they're doing the middle school and the high school, and obviously it's a larger high school, but the cost was $50,000 is what they had in their budget.
Right.
So
And I think they are doing it at the middle school too.
They are.
Yeah.
And I appreciate at the end you said that you appreciate this conversation with us, and so I'm curious too what our role is in these decisions. I know that each school right now currently has their own guideline, and there's been some discussion about a district-wide policy, and is that the only time when we would really have a role in this conversation? So I guess that's a general question for us, for the board, but also I'm curious how you would like support from the board, and if we're just doing a school by school decision, is there anything that you would like our support and guidance on?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's obviously in the news a lot. We have a bill coming through the legislature. It sounds like we have a parent group that's been very involved. The Alliance of Thoughtful Technology, the RSU 5 Alliance of Thoughtful Technology. We've been working with them. They actually try to help us get the funding for that Project Reboot thing. Our PTSO has been very helpful too. They tried to help us get the funding for that Project Reboot as well. So, with the board, I guess I don't know where this law is going, and if it's like a district by district decision, which it sounds like it might be potentially. They're gonna leave it up to the local school boards to decide. I think it would be great for us to like have a really thoughtful discussion, getting lots of feedback from lots of stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, to kind of come up with a policy that we think can be, is first of all good for learning and kids' mental health, and second of all, like something that's manageable for staff to kind of enforce, and something that is enforceable, that we can all kind of get behind. I don't want to rush into anything either, but I just like your leadership and kind of facilitating that kind of a process would be like ideal, I guess I would say, depending on what we're allowed to do per this new state law coming down the pike, I guess.
So I'm wondering if it would make sense to develop like an ad hoc committee to review this in the fall in the next school year, and it as a district ad hoc committee, and also with our strategic planning focus groups and surveys that will go out in the fall, if we can, I don't
tag
remember
on to that.
Yeah, ask some of those questions about cell phone use then.
Yeah. More.
I just had a follow-up to that. Oh, thank you so much, Charlie, for this information. I'm sorry to hear that things haven't gone better. But I would be interested if we did have an ad hoc committee and seeing if they would be willing to do the work over the summer. I mean, I don't know if it's reasonable or feasible to expect to go into the fall with, I know the board has to vote to adopt a policy, so certainly we couldn't go into the fall doing that, although we do have additional meetings coming up. and we would need time to hear from stakeholders. So I certainly agree, like, I would want that process to be thoughtful, but also with everything that you're saying, I also am concerned about going through another school year with the status quo, and if it would be possible mid-school year to shift gears and adopt the policy, or how that all would work.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear too. Things are better. I would say that things are better. I didn't want to give you the impression that things are not better than last year. They are definitely better. There's no question, but there's definitely still issues, and it's definitely still a problem. Yeah, for sure.
Kelly.
Yeah, I guess that kind of tagging along with that question, going into the next school year, I assume we would not have enough time to acquire a bunch of Sonder bags or whatever they are before the next school year. But over the summer or whenever this happened, or in conjunction with your administration, if there could be more discussion about whether it could still be a bell-to-bell type ban, and whether that could be actually more easily enforced than what you have in place existing right now.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on, is it feasible to consider something like this midstream in the year, right? I mean, obviously, best practice is to start the year. That's why we did this year with it.
Right.
I mean, it is a little easier to, I don't know about maybe easier is not the right word, but what we're considering, something like the locked bags is easier to facilitate because it's, it goes in the bag, right? I mean, you could start that on any given day. You could start it after Christmas break. You could start, I think it's less about sort of the mental habit of, okay, now I go in, I put my thing in, I take my thing out, I know it, it's just something you do at the beginning of the day. So I think it might be easier to facilitate midstream. I mean, I don't envision how we could get it done before the school year started. Yeah, I don't know if we could, I don't think we could thoughtfully do all that work in the 2 months and get them and find a way to pay for them. I think, the thing that I heard from you, Charlie, that I really liked, because, one of my hesitations about the bags or anything sort of extreme like that is okay, in school, that's good. How are we teaching them to survive in a world where this is the world? Like,
Right.
the technology it's not going away.
Right.
I understand they mature. I understand their brains change. I understand all those things. But I also know that they need to find a way to survive in this world, driven by technology. So, the ideas around that speaker, maybe hand in hand, those types of things coming together, right? Of not just, you can't have this because we don't trust you, and more, this is why we're doing it, this is how we're helping you, this is how you can navigate these things in your life outside of these four walls. That's compelling to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Danielle first, and then we'll.
I agree with you, Michelle. I think that we have, there's certain classes that every student at the high school has to take. I don't think it would be a bad thing to consider there being a tech class, something talking about social media, if that's what we're very, concerned about. Because again, all that's going to happen is the phone's going to be locked in a bag for school hours, and they're still going to go home and they're still going to use that phone. And so we have not taught them one thing about what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do. So I just don't see it as we're not gaining anything. And there's data that shows that the laptop is just as distracting as the cell phone. So my thing is, let's bring back books and get rid of electronics altogether, because those can be just as problematic. So the kids might, not have their phones, but they're still going to have a laptop in front of them. And I know that they are playing games on the laptops, that they are doing things that they shouldn't be doing on them, and instead of on their phones, that's what they're doing. So again, I think we have to have some type of education for these kids, and it doesn't have to just start at the high school. We can start at the elementary or middle school, and incorporate that into the education.
And I think they can, they can iMessage from their their laptops, right? So we've heard from parents who were like, I've seen my kids' text messages. They're texting during middle school, and well, they're probably doing it from their laptops, right? So I don't know if that's a functionality you can shut down. There was also questions about whether we shut down social media in the buildings. We do, right? Like we block those in our Wi-Fi already. But if you're on cell service, we can't block it. So, I think there's, to your point, Danielle, I think there's some education that could happen all around, right? It could happen with parents, right? So this is how your kid might be circumnavigating. If you know how they're doing it, maybe you can check, right? With the kids, I don't think we get nothing out of not having the phones, right? I think we eliminate the distraction in the day. I think we make teachers' jobs more about educating the kids and less policing the phones. So I don't think we get nothing out of it. But to your point of are we teaching them how to use their phones, live in the world better? Probably not, unless it couples with other things.
Yeah, excuse me. I was going to say the same things about what we would still get out of that. And I also see the ad hoc committee being one that could look into digital citizenship curriculums and education and different ways to support the schools in those areas, because I absolutely agree that's something we should also be focusing on, not just a ban. And we didn't ask DCS or FMS to report out tonight either, and that is also an area that I think that an ad hoc committee could be looking at and supporting.
Right, because they are bell to bell, right? I mean, they currently are not allowed to have phones from the first bell to the end bell. Now, obviously, there might be some execution risk there that there are kids who will smuggle phones in. I mean, to Charlie's point, nothing is foolproof, but we don't want good to be the enemy of great, right? Is that I always mix up that saying. We want good to be the enemy of evil. Technology. No. Phoebe.
Yeah, so lots of interesting points. I totally agree that I think there needs to be lots of education for students and for teachers and for parents, about what the reasoning behind it. I think from my point of view, a bell-to-bell policy or a locked bag type of thing would be very hard to implement. It would be expensive. It would logistically be hard. I would say the majority of our students don't have their licenses, and their after-school plans are changing, and I don't know if the office staff would be prepared to deal with every single kid calling their parent, trying to figure out what they're doing after school. Sports practices change. And there's classes art classes and the photography classes that use phones. There's QR codes on the walls. I think it would be a big adjustment, and I think that there are a lot of things that can be learned from learning how to set boundaries with the technology. But I think no matter what happens, you 100% need buy-in from students. And when students have the agency to make a change and they feel like they are doing it themselves and they are part of the change, it's going to make a huge impact. And Freeport High School has an asset in the Student Leadership Committee who presented to the board in the fall, has all of the tools to go out, seek information and perspective from students, and then realize that into data and can influence decision making. And we've seen that happen before with the advisories. We've seen it happen with AP costs, with mental health resources, and I think that should definitely be something to be looked into, because I don't think much progress can be made when it is just adults making the decisions, because I think it's kind of in our nature to like to push back against decisions from higher up. But if students feel like they are the ones who want to make this change, which I think many really do want to learn how to be better about technology and around their phones, I think you're going to see a lot more success.
I know it's hard to believe, Phoebe, but we all went to high school once. And we all made it home eventually. Not Malik. She's still hoping next year she's going. But yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing up the resource of the leadership team, you know, and if the thought of a ad hoc committee, you know, moves forward, I would definitely see a role for that group in that, right? Because buy-in is key, right? You know, maybe it's the speaker first, right? Understanding the why, and then think about how, right? I mean, I don't know how expensive the speaker is, but $50,000. But I love the idea of grant funding too.
So I know we're specifically talking about cell phones here, but and I feel also that cell phones are the hot topic. So you know, you hear a lot about it, and I know that's why we're addressing it. And obviously, there creates problems. But I have to say, like, my bigger concern about the technology is the AI. And to me, like, kids, they're on their laptops. I mean, I hear this like from my kid directly about kids sitting there Googling their answers, Googling this and then turning it in and, you know, passing their classes. And it's just, I think to me, that just seems like a much bigger issue than whether they're distracted by a cell phone, you know, because there's always going to be distractions. But if they're not, like if they're not learning because they're able to like Google and AI things and just have things written for them, then so I mean, I know that Colin has touched on this before and wanted to know sort of thing, but I just had to throw that out there because I feel like that's a huge, huge thing. And then also, Michelle, if we are going to take away cell phones, I think we need to put some pay phones back in the lobbies so kids can put a quarter in and call home, right?
How many kids you think need a ride home? Yeah, divided by 4. Yes, Kelly.
I'm just curious about the pushback and the slipping that you say has happened over the school year. And you say it's mostly during advisory. I'm sort of curious to know how much teachers feel like cell phones have been a distraction in other academic settings, regular classroom settings.
Yeah, I mean, I think it started slipping in advisory, and then it kind of spread out from there. So I think it's definitely happening in other academic settings, you know, and it depends on the teacher, it depends on the class. I think time of day matters. Like at the end of the day seems to be, you know, everybody's kind of done and tired, and you see a lot more at that time. But it definitely started in an advisory. And again, I want to reiterate, it is definitely better than last year. It is definitely better. There's no question about that. But it's you know, it's slipping, and it takes energy, a lot of energy from the adults in the building, the teachers who have the kids in front of them to keep battling this. And so that's, you know, but it's happening in multiple academic settings.
Yeah, one thing you said that was really interesting to me was that 77% statistic, because I don't think that was the case last year, right? Because the recommendation from the leadership team at the high school was, we don't think we need to go to that type of, we'd like to try this.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your willingness to try it and see how it turned out. And maybe it needs to be tweaked further.
Right, yeah.
Colin.
My math is probably not right, but I think it would take 200,000 phone calls. Yeah, there you go. And I think that's perfectly feasible. So I think we got our money right there. Yeah, Charlie, thank you so much. This was extremely helpful, and I appreciate the the depth of just how much you all are in this, and how and also your willingness to give this year a try, and also just your candor about what these challenges are. That's extraordinarily helpful. I guess I have a couple things. One is, I guess I'm gonna be devil's advocate here for a second. I don't think there's anything. Okay, it's a part of my brain. It's not my whole brain, but that's what being a devil's advocate is you say that just what is in one part of your brain. So don't hurt me, Phoebe. I don't, or Kara. Neither of you hurt me, please. I don't see what an ad hoc committee is going to tell us that we don't already know. I think we know everything. I think we know that we know what the impacts are. We know that there will be mixed opinion among parents. We now know this statistic among administrators and teachers at the school. We know. I think what you've presented, Phoebe, is absolutely accurate. that something being put in place that was in the form of a ban that way would be hard for a lot of students to accept and to implement. I guess I'm just sitting here and thinking about that, and thinking about what you're reporting, and thinking about the idea of spending another year talking about it. I honestly don't know. We're pretty smart in this district. Like, we're pretty smart, and our kids are pretty smart, and our parents are pretty smart. But like, no one solved this. Like, no one's found the silver bullet, right? So like, the idea that we're gonna find in 12 months a way to implement something that hasn't been done anywhere else and that will absolutely make everybody happy is just like, it's malarkey. Like, so that will not happen. So we will find ourselves in 12 months taking one of the compromise positions or one of the hard positions that have already been mapped out. So I guess so the devil on this shoulder is just saying, like, really, why wait when we have a clear option, which would be to borrow $50,000 from Malik and just buy those dang bags and implement that. Again, I am coming quite hard from that side. The other angel over here is like, I love talking about stuff. Like, I love talking about the issues. I love getting into it. I love hearing everybody's point of view. Maybe like this person over here like has just been polluted by like, maybe I'm just feeling the I don't know, like maybe like just a few more executive orders coming from the board, you know, just like maybe just sort of like just more of that, right? More of that before policy. Let's just do more of that, which is terrifying to me that I'm sort of noticing that, but also very few of them are working or legal or will stand the test of time. So I think I just want to put that out there that again, if there was an ad hoc committee formed, if that was the will of the board, like, I'd love to be on it, or would love to talk to the people that are on it, and would love to hear again, like the going back to our earlier our meeting over the summer. When I shut down my colleague Beth, who was asking to share a more sort of personal anecdote, and I felt very bad about doing that. I would love to hear more personal anecdotes from our teachers, from our students, from our parents, to sort of understand that. That's important. That like lived experience is really important. And we know that cell phones in the classroom do not help anything.
Yeah, I don't envision a year process, to be clear. I don't think it's something that could only be instituted at the beginning of a year. I do think better implementation happens when you have more buy-in and a well thought out plan and less of a hammer. But I'm not at a point where I feel like if we, polled the students and 51% said, no, we don't want this, we'd be like, well, we tried, guys, sorry. Like, I do think we have a role as the board, right? If we are going to set a district, I do think you're right, Kara, that if we are going to have a district policy, that's our take. And we decide if we're going to have that or not, right? If we're going to leave it to the schools, then they will set their policies. You know, I see a more nuanced way to do it than, you know, either just drop the hammer and place the order. Thanks, Malik. See, you don't have to go to high school. She got 50 grand for these bags. And waiting a whole year and, you know, having a crosswalk. I don't know, that's like an education term, right? Like you guys do these crosswalk things, right? So, right? Isn't that a thing? A crosswalk? Yeah. Doesn't apply here, but it's fine.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
It's a thing. I think there's a way to do it that could be, you know, a little bit in between those things, in my opinion.
One last thought is, from me anyway, is that have you ever, in something like this where a new policy is sort of rolled out for 1 year, and so you know, obviously came out of the gates strong, and then things started happening towards the middle end of the year. Is there anything that you've experienced that's similar that maybe like the second year going, it's even better? Or, you know, because like to me, I feel like we were in that space where all of the kids except for the 9th graders had sort of been used to having their phones and whatever, and so it was a much bigger, right, it was a much bigger, you know, hard thing for maybe them to accept. But as like, so these seniors go away, and now it's gonna be the next, you know, class coming up from middle school where they're not used to it. And so, you know, with you saying that things have improved a lot at the high school, and that, you know, potentially sticking with the same plan could, I mean, it's just a thought. Is that something that has occurred to you guys, or what?
Well, I mean, yeah, we've had things happen before where that, you know, there was not a rough start and then kind of they improved over time, for sure. Like I thinking like when we went from 2 lunches to 3 lunches, that was a heavy lift. Actually, we did that in the middle of the year, which was kind of crazy, but it took time and people hated it. A lot of people hated it at the beginning, but now it's like, oh yeah, we just have 3 lunches. That's just the way it is. And people went through, and it's all good. So, and we have thought about that. Like we have, you know, thought about like, well, this is the first year. Maybe it'll be better next year, even better, I should say. So yeah, we've talked about that. And like I said, you know, our faculty leadership team will be meeting on the 18th and the 20th to our kind of annual retreat where we look back on the year and kind of look ahead to the next year and make tweaks to things like the cell phone policy and other policies. So, I mean, we will start tweaking it on June 18th for next year and hopefully make it even better.
Yeah, I didn't want to have it like scrapped completely because
Yeah.
you are saying that there has been some benefit from
Yeah.
it. So I just don't want to have that lost in our process of thinking about what we need to do from here. So.
Did you get good response to the survey? Because I always want to ask, like, what's the
So,
response rate?
so it's 35 faculty members out of like 50 so far. They still have time. And of those 35 people, 77% favored the lockback. So, I mean, that's you know, that's.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a decent turnout. It wasn't 7.
No, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the Morse Street, Morse High School, as a kind of an example of a school nearby that's using them. But I'm just sort of curious if there's been a broader reach in terms of looking for other schools and how the implementation of these bags has actually worked on the ground in real life.
We have not had a broader reach yet. No, we know. Well, as most of you guys know, we have a former assistant principal that I worked with at the middle school, who was at the middle school, who is now the principal at Morse Middle School. You know, started talking to him about it, and then he suggested I talk to the Morse High School principal about it. So that's how that happened. But I have not spoken to a broader reach yet.
Did they do it at the middle school?
Yes, they did.
For Morse?
Yep, they did.
And Connor feels the same, that it's been well? But
Yeah.
I guess he wasn't there before it happened, right? So.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, good best practices around implementation are interesting, right? Like, I think the final decision on something like that lands with the board, but seeking the feedback around a good way to implement, I think, is still good practice for us. Maura?
I appreciate your comments, everyone, but especially Colin, because it's made me feel like I could be more outspoken. I feel like, I don't know what the analogy is to use, but like I feel like we got to pull the safety lever or something here. And I guess in terms of implementation and student voice, I would feel comfortable. It seems to me from everything that I've heard that both at this meeting and outside of this meeting about these pouches is that it seems like the best method. Now, we could engage students around, and I don't know if this is feasible, maybe it's a ridiculous suggestion, like, can you access them during lunch? Can, a quarter of the kids on Monday get to access, like, I don't know, is there some plan where there's a compromise between we have the pouches and the students can have a voice of how we use them? Because I feel like if we're talking about a compromise, I don't know what that would look like beyond what we're doing now, and we have a stricter way to sort of separate, again, like I don't want to be authoritarian, but like separate the kids from their phones for the period of time that we're trying to separate them. But I do also want to acknowledge, I see it with my kids, the laptops it is incredibly distracting. It's, I don't usually share personal anecdotes about my family, but I will say like the transition to middle school and having a laptop in school it's a hard one. So I just want to acknowledge that as well, and that like everything that everyone else has said, Danielle, and about the educating students, like it is a hard thing as a parent that I grapple with, and I would love for the kids to have more support and education around as well. But I also just feel like if we moved ahead, I feel like I'm comfortable as a board member saying I would, after the administrative team meets, if you feel like it's a good idea, could we try to, the board initiate trying to find the money? I feel like, again, maybe this isn't realistic, but if we purchase them, I feel like there's probably such high demand for them right now, it probably would not be difficult to resell them. So at least we could have them if we find the money, could somehow find this magic money. And the possibility, right. Right. Right, we'll mark them up, no. Because then, because then at least we would have that option, and we could have a conversation then with the input from the stakeholders, including the students, about how do we use them appropriately, and what's the compromise that we're seeking.
I have, I guess, another question. Do you think, Charlie, that the idea the teachers think that the students shouldn't have the phones at all during the hallway time or at lunch? I mean, do we think that is a time where we just don't want them to have it? Because again, I look at that, like Phoebe mentioned, I mean, you have older siblings who need to pick up younger siblings, that sometimes, these kids are working, they have other stuff that they're doing. So do we don't want them to have it, that's the goal at all? Or are we just trying to make it better so that the teachers aren't the bad guys in the classroom taking the phone away? I guess I feel like we need to distinguish like, yes, exactly. Because I think if it's okay, because this is what I imagine. I mean, the Durham kids, I only know this because my kids rode the bus from Durham here initially, but they could sit in the cafeteria for sometimes 30 minutes before school started. So if they walk in the door at 7:20 or 7:25, are you taking their phone from that time until the end of the day? Because I guarantee you no one's coming in that door until 7:49 or whenever school starts.
Right.
So I guess is the bag, again, what is the purpose of the bag? The purpose to definitely can't get in it during the classroom time, which please everybody understand, I'm 100% no cell phone in the classroom. But I also think that means don't ask my kid to do something at home on their cell phone at night. I don't do that. But I do think at lunchtime, I think it's okay for them to have that communication if they need that.
Yeah.
So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that we haven't said fully what the procedure would be, or we haven't gotten that kind of feedback. but you know, in terms of, you know, I think what the bags would do would make things much more black and white and less gray. And when you start saying, okay, you can have it in between classes, then kids start kind of like, okay, well, I was late coming back from the bathroom, and so that's why I still have it when I'm walking into the room. And then the teacher being like, why do you have your phone? You know, getting rid of those types of things that are draining teachers and staff. You know, in terms of like the coming into the Durham bus gets to school very early, 7:15. And so, I mean, we haven't talked about what the procedure would be, you know, obviously if we got these bags, but, you know, maybe like the kids that are waiting in the CAF before they leave the CAF to go to school, they put it in a bag. I don't know exactly how that would work, but we could talk about those types of procedures if this happens. And, you know, and again, I don't know if this is the magic bullet, the bags, you know, but I think the overall kind of what makes the bags attractive is that, again, it makes things very black and white for everybody. There's no kind of wiggle room, if you will, and that's I think the appeal.
So, did anyone else chuckle when they looked at the agenda and it said 10 minutes to talk about cell phones? I don't know who Ginny thinks is on the board, but it's clearly not us. So what I'm going to suggest is, I think this is all very good conversation. I think there is more work to be done before we can even pull that call. So I think this goes on our retreat discussion in August. We get information on pricing in the meantime. You guys have your meeting. We pull in the middle schools to get their feedback on how it's going. Because I think it's premature for us to be like, place the order tomorrow. We don't know how much they are. We don't know where the money's coming from. And I think it would just be premature. I'm not saying we need to wait a year, because I don't disagree with you, Colin. Like, we're not going to know. I think we could know more by August to come up with a plan. So that would be my suggestion. Yeah.
I'd like that suggestion. And as far as the cost, I feel like this could be one of those things that could be fundraised for potentially, depending on how much it is, and knowing that there is that Alliance for Thoughtful Technology group, they might be willing to help lead that. And so I don't want the cost to be something that automatically is a reason to say we can't do this.
No, but I just don't even think we know what it. I mean, 15 and 50 are very different numbers, right? So
I just want to throw out that possibility.
Yep. Her hand's not up.
These are all Malik's ideas, just by the way. I have no opinions of my own. This is all what Malik wants me to say. Two things. One, I'm trying to think of the term, but it has something like technology creep or something like that, of this sort of this idea that at any given time, our society is kind of like in a situation where we're accepting things that we never gave anybody permission to put on us or ask us to do. So I think this is one of those situations, and I think the larger question around AI, I think the larger question around laptops, the larger question about technology, they're all part of that, which is like how much of the normative culture that we are immersed in or that we're inheriting do we accept? Do we accept as a given? And how much agency do we either want to have or believe that we have as a community to decide that these are our kids, these are the young people in our community, and we want to craft the best environment for them, regardless of what technology companies want, regardless of what the various government agencies want, regardless of what other sort of media sources are after. So I think that, I guess I wanted to sort of create that frame to just say that I think I mean, I don't disagree with you, Danielle, about I was using my damn phone in the middle of this conversation, right? Because it is a tool, and it's like it's part of it, and also it's helpful to know if like my wife was able to pick up my prescription, right? Like that's like, yes, that's part of it. But also, I've been trained by this society to accept that is a given. And like, we're not going back to the 1990s But at the same time, like, there were lots of ways of finding, of getting in touch with family members, with parents. Immediate access to information is not a given, and it's not a given good. Second point, I think I do think the cell phone question is slightly more, and I think based on the way you presented it, Charlie, it's like we have a clearer solution to the problem than we do with the question of AI, for example, or technology use in general, or technology education. I mean, I think in 5 years, if our educational situation does not look extremely different in terms of how AI is integrated and how technology is working, I think that we will have failed this community. Because it is huge, again, in terms of like what is happening in our society and the pressures that are being put upon our students, upon our educators, and upon just our community in general. So I think that that will be part of the 5-year plan, but I think we just need to find a way to accelerate that process and respond to it in more in real time. So I think I agree that the cell phone thing is part of it, but there are bags. If we could just put the internet in a bag, be like, here, put it in here, put it in your bag, put the internet in your bag, and don't use it until you get home.
Well, you threw out some big stuff there, Colin, to end the conversation. That's what Malik said. Okay. Thank you, Charlie.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. So, I'm just wondering, in terms of soliciting input, so if we discuss this in August, which that plan all sounds good to me, would we be wanting input from a survey, like a student survey? So we've surveyed the administrators. Do you want a student parent survey? Would the board talk about that then? Or is that something we could think about between now and then?
Yeah, we do have a few more meetings coming
Now
up.
and then.
So we could think about, is there a way, who's our strategic communications people? Seems like a strategic communication.
Or we create an ad hoc committee, I don't know, to talk about that sort of thing.
And I think just my 2 cents on when you're getting ready to survey, there's a key time to survey folks as well. And we know, like, students, this is not a time we would want us to, or during the summer, you wouldn't want to survey students. And I see Phoebe saying, no. Even parents at this time, families are really there. There's a lot of summer activities that families do. They go away and they're not in school mode, and I would worry you wouldn't have enough response to that. But I think to piggyback on what Kara said earlier, their strategic planning committee is getting ready to do a lot, that launch a survey and also do a lot of some focus groups and be out in the community, and that would be a great time we can tag on some questions about this and get that data that you want to have.
Okay. Oh, Phoebe.
Well, I'll just mention that earlier Colin was talking about like personal anecdotes, so I'm happy to forward the board all of the cat memes that my dad sends me during the school day.
Even if we don't get bags, there's one for Phoebe coming.
I never said I respond. Talk to LL Bean. I don't know what he does. He has a job, but
I know somebody in security, cybersecurity there. Okay. So, board comments and committee reports. I just wanted to use this opportunity to do a couple things around the superintendent search, just to provide a quick update there. So all of the board needs to complete the confidentiality of watch the video, the training, and then the link to sign the confidentiality agreement. And Phoebe and Moon do not have to do it, so you're out. Good for you. One less thing on your plate. What's up? Preferably by the 13th is what Ginny has requested. So everyone should have it in their inbox. Let me know if you don't. We are also, so right now the additional meetings we have scheduled are for 6:18 and 6:25. Ginny has asked if we could do those at 5. just because just for the hours of the building, they're into their summer hours, and usually they close the buildings down earlier. So if I think the plan is to do that, to move both those meetings to 5, and if folks could check their calendars and let me know if that does not work for you. You don't have to do it right. Everybody's phone's out. I'm gonna give you all yonder bags. So we'll plan those for 5. Let me know if that does not work for you when you check your calendars. Phoebe and Moon don't have to go to those either, so you're good. Yeah, sorry. So excited. The other thing in your packets is the executive summary from MSMA about the survey that was sent out around key areas of expertise and what we're looking for in terms of a new superintendent. I think we had, it was a bunch. I know it's on here. How many people? 259 people responded to the survey, which I think is quite good. And you can see from question 1, it's heavily weighted towards parents, but we did have, our next biggest group was teachers, support staff, community members. We had a couple students complete it, administrators. So I thought it was interesting. You guys all have it there. How we're planning to use these responses is based on sort of the feedback we've gotten from this survey. We're using this to help craft questions for the interview process. So the first interviews, which are scheduled for next Tuesday, and then the following week with the second interviews with the full board on the 18th. So we're trying to use these to help craft some of those questions. Eileen's helping us with that. So Steph, Kara, Anna, and I are meeting at the end of this week to nail down questions for that process. And we opened it up to the committee to submit suggestions for questions to be included, and I will extend that offer to the board as well. If you have questions that you think we should consider in either the first or the second interview, if you could get those to Ginny by Friday noontime, because we have to make that call later in the afternoon to determine those questions. Okay? Questions, thoughts? Yes.
Is this, we keep this in the purple folder? I can take it?
You can take it.
Oh,
Yep.
thanks.
It's not salmon. It's all yours. Yes. Yeah, and I think we sent this out a little after, we got it after the agendas went out. I assume Ginny also updated this onto the website. Yes.
This is really, really cool to look at and really helpful. I think the only thing I would just flag, and I don't think, again, the hiring committee would particularly take this particular note into account, but the fact that only 2.32% of folks said that budget and finance expertise and resourcefulness was a priority. Right? Like, it sort of just to say there are limits. We all know there are limits to the data that we can collect and how meaningful it is, because I will say without our current superintendent's budget and finance expertise and resourcefulness, we would be in a very different place. And so if that is clearly not number 8 in our current superintendent's skill set.
Yeah, so this was the hard question everyone struggled with, because you could only pick one for each, you know. So it's not that all of these aren't incredibly important. It's what is the most important. Yeah, but noted for sure. Yeah. All right. I think that's all my notes on things I was supposed to say. So any other board information exchange or agenda requests?
I had an agenda request for next year, but I wanted to put it in now because it involves a request of a staff member. We maybe 2 years ago, got to hear a pitch for a sabbatical for one of our teachers. Had a really exciting project that they were looking at. And I just loved the philosophy of learning and all of that was presented there. And I would just love to, if there'd be some way to have the board get a presentation of what happened during that year, or just how that curriculum, again, that just seemed really exciting, is being implemented.
Can certainly, reminder of one of the things we do in August is we work on our work plan for the year, and we try to, nail down different presentations that the board would like to see throughout the year, because obviously there are limited time and resources of the staff. We can't hear about everything, so we put it all, on the table and have a conversation about, what rises to the top in terms of what we'd like to see. So we will definitely include that on the table. Thank you. Any others? Okay, so let's move to facilities and operations. Kelly.
So we had a Facilities and Operations Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 7th, and during that meeting, our Facilities Director, Glenn Reynolds, spent some time sharing a progress update for our Phase 1 energy audit projects. It appears that we're going to be prioritizing a lot of life safety issue projects as well, and some of the projects that will be completed soon include the Freeport High School boiler replacement, some LED lighting upgrades, fire panel and devices upgrades, and door replacements. A lot of these projects they're planning to complete them over the summer, and some of them they will be completed during the next school year, depending on the availability of some of the products. We also had a lot of interest from the community. We continue to get feedback about our Freeport High School tennis courts. So our committee reviewed estimates and how much it would take for us to commence repair of those courts. Just in brief, I am getting a job this summer. So are you going to pay for the tennis court? That would be awesome. Thank you, Phoebe.
Maybe if you got the courts, you could get your D1 scholarship.
So Phoebe's going to pay for the courts, and it'll be done next year. No. Basically, we talked about how we really do need to get some engineering done to sort of nail down how much work actually needs to be done before we can get a hard estimate or a bid about how much those are going to cost. So that's something that perhaps can be done in the next year or so. Yeah, that's about it.
Questions for Kelly? Okay, so we will move on to the Finance Committee minutes.
All right, so the Finance Committee held a meeting that I was not able to be at. So I'll report, but I might ask Kelly a question or two. So basically the presentation, the meeting was the presentation of the FY24 audit by Marge Hall. And so everything looked fantastic from everything that I can see, which was great. And so our next meeting is next week on the 11th, and our topics are the town assessments review, the FY25 anticipated budget to actual review, and to set the FY26 meeting dates. And I'm just wondering, Kelly, could you just say what the town assessments are that we're going to be reviewing? Is it like the tax? Okay, all right. I know you're going to do a better job than me, so.
Yes, it's the actual tax assessment for each municipality. So when you think about the budget impact sheets that we looked at, there's a page one that kind of summarizes and give a breakdown of everything, and then you flip it over on the backside. It has a per town impact. So actually and I just did them today for your packet that'll be going out tomorrow. You'll see on there that it's the amounts that say net taxation impact to town. And then that each town, for those who don't know, each town pays us on a monthly basis based upon the tax assessment that you all sign after the budget validation referendum each year.
Thank you very
And
much.
the only other plug that I want to put in is that if anybody wants to look at the audited financial statements, if you need some light reading, they are all on our website from our inception. There's a PDF of each one. If you go under the budget area and then look under the financial statements, the PDF of all the audits are there, along with all the budget documents as well.
So anyone has severe insomnia, we now have your solution.
Thank you,
Each one
Kelly.
is a nice 150 pages.
Yes, and if anybody has any questions, Kelly can answer them for you. 'Cause I obviously don't.
Thank you, Chair of the Finance Committee. I will say, we didn't say it earlier, but I do want to plug the Tuesday is Election Day for the school board, school referendum, validation referendum. So I encourage everyone to get out and vote. And we will be anxiously awaiting those results and certify those on Wednesday next week. Okay. Finance Committee, Colin. Oh yeah, sorry. Finance is done. Policy, Colin.
Hello. We met as a policy committee on May the 2nd, which was last month. And we had one guest, Ashley Rand, the HR coordinator. And Ashley was there to help us look at, as part of our regular policy review process, GBJ, personnel records and files, and GCF, professional staff and hiring. And we had a good conversation with Ashley. So thanks so much to Ashley for coming to that. But we made no revisions to them, so we are not bringing them before you. We're having our next meeting this Friday, June 6th, at 8:45 a.m. via Zoom, which the public is welcome to attend, with the understanding that they will just be witnessing the event. They cannot participate there. If they have any thoughts about the policies under discussion, they would need to contact the whole board at board@rsu5.org. But also on Friday, we're not going to be talking about a lot of policies. We're going to be talking about our agenda for next year. So we're going to be sort of having a conversation about that. Before we transition into doing the second read for the three policies before us tonight, I did just want to say, on behalf of the policy committee, thank you to Cynthia Alexander for all that you have done for the school, obviously, but for our committee. I know how much work that is, and you've made it so much easier to get that work done and been so responsive, so I really appreciate that. And in your honor, as long as I am the chair of the policy committee, we will come to meetings dressed in our favorite era of Taylor Swift. Okay, that's just it's now policy. It's called the Cynthia Alexander commemorative policy. And that's the end of my policy committee report, unless there are questions about the new policy.
Okay, so we will move on to item 11, policy review. And we do have three policies for second read. So do I have a motion for consideration and approval of second read for the following policies? IJOC, school volunteers, IKC, transcripts and academic achievement, and JLF, reporting child abuse and neglect. Maura and Kara, thank you.
So this evening, the policy committee is bringing before you these three policies for second read and approval. After the first read conversation, no substantive changes were made. And as I said earlier, the policies GBJ, personal records and files, GCF, professional staff and hiring, were looked at, but no revisions were made, so they're not being brought before you. So any thoughts or questions about any of these policies? We could go through them one by one, but we'll just start with any.
Did we make any changes from the first to the second?
We made, I'm trying to remember yeah, please, Cynthia, yeah.
Just on one. The others were just stayed the same. It was IJOC, and we added in the let's see, on page 2 of 2, and the person starting the paragraph starting with the word persons in the middle. We added that underlined, once an application is submitted, a background check and sex offender registry check are completed by the RSU 5 Human Resources Coordinator.
Yeah, Cynthia, thank you for that clarification, and apologies for the error before. I think what I remembered was that we were not changing anything about the fact that people had to get this, they had to be checked. It was just formalizing that process. And also, I think we did have a discussion about how we want also to be transparent for our volunteers about that, so that they're aware of what will happen when they submit a volunteer application.
So I wasn't here, unfortunately, for the discussion on the first one, but so I'm just curious, with the addition of the background check and sex offender registry check, which seem fantastic. Obviously, we want to make sure that people are not coming in, but so this applies to every parent, every volunteer. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, and I think what we, sorry, forgive me, and Cynthia, correct me if I drift away from the truth, but this is already practiced. So this is already what is currently done. When a volunteer, I think I used the example of when I volunteered at Mass Landing School and had to fill out a form to volunteer and watch that. If I go through that process, then technically, my record must be checked.
So I think the question is, I think volunteers in the classroom. That's probably true. I think what some of the confusion is around like events. If we have people who are volunteering for events, right? So let's talk about the track meet this weekend. Are those volunteers of the school? Have those all been checked? If we have volunteers that are helping with senior week events, are those all checked? Is that the same process as a volunteer, or is that different?
So the schools typically will ask. So yes, senior week, last week when I was away, well, actually traveling, and Ashley was out, I was submitting a records check, background records check, and sex offender registry check for one of the volunteers, last minute volunteers for an activity happening in senior week. So yes, those types of things are happening. It's not every event though. So you're like vetted, and typically it's like a 2-year. It's kind of looking like to me like a 2-year kind of rotation for that. In my previous district, we did it every year. Basically, the slate got wiped clean, and you reapplied every single year, because there are things that happen in life, right? Every day. So we're working on kind of tightening up that practice. Now, I just want to be clear that when we say we're doing a background check, this isn't a CHRC. You're not going and getting your fingerprinting done like we do as school employees, and getting any sort of certification. What we're doing is we belong to a network through the state of Maine called Inform Me, and we can do a criminal history record check. It's a very brief kind of report that runs out. It typically comes back within 24 to 48 hours. And it basically gives you any information for a name or similar name to yours. So, for example, my maiden name is Williams, right? So if I put Kelly Wentworth in and something happened when I was Kelly Williams, typically they're tied together, and so you would see anything that any Kelly Williams or Kelly Wentworth kind of happened, although we do use dates of birth, but sometimes things show up. So one of the cautions with that, and one of the things that ultimately ends up with the superintendent, is if something comes back and we see something most of them come back and it says no information to report. Terrific, rubber stamp, and it goes through. But when we see something that comes through, it then gets forwarded to the superintendent for an ultimate decision and a discussion potentially with that person, because it may be a misidentification. You know what I mean? Or it may have been something that happened at a frat party when you were, 18 and you're now 50, right? So there are a lot of things that get taken into consideration, but it's been a practice all along. When you fill out an application to be a volunteer in the school, we've been doing that. We were doing it when I was here before as well. So it's not something that's new. It's just newly being codified into a policy to say this is what happens versus it just being on the application.
Right, because it is on the application now,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So I just know from experience that, a lot of times things happen very last minute. And so I'm just wondering, is there discretion at sort of the administrator level as far as, really needing a bunch of chaperones for something and then not having enough people sign up in advance, but say on the day of, all of a sudden you get an email and there's 3 more parents that can do it. So what sort of...
No. If they haven't, I'll just say from if they haven't done it, and it's a hard no for me, so we really tell, our administrative team, like, know who those folks are, get them on early. And sometimes when we see this, sometimes they're sporting events. I think sometimes we see it when they're, it might be going to a state championship or something, and also like who's allowed to drive. We're really particular. You have to be on the driver's list for vans. And so I don't, because in the end, I would want the same for my child, and we have wonderful people, and 99.9% of folks are wonderful human beings, but I don't want that 0.1% slip through because we were desperate. So we do not allow them if they have not done that.
So Ashley does maintain a list, as there's a list that schools can, because if you have children over multiple schools, we're not going to make you fill out multiple applications, right? You fill out the application, you go onto the list if you're approved. The administrative secretaries can access that list to make sure you've been vetted, right, and passed that. And if the name's not on the list, then they would either submit an application or say, Beth applied and I don't see her on the list, and we can go from there. And we can say either she wasn't cleared or we need an application.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I remember the field trip that I volunteered for, and I had not signed up for that, and I was wicked bummed because they would not let me go. And I was like, but it's me.
They said exactly.
Exactly. and then they reached over and turned off my microphone. Any other questions about, Beth, thanks for that question. Any other questions about anything? Yes, Mara.
Yes, I will ask. Thanks, Kelly, for the explanation. Do we need to specify, like, where it says background check then? Do we want to use a different word, or be more specific? I don't know.
It is a background check, right? And I think we probably don't want to be more specific in case we were to change the vendor, right? I think a background check can be as simple as, doing a search on the database, or it could be as in-depth as we hired a PI to, which we don't. Just Colin. We're hoping next year we can get him on the volunteer list. But yeah, I think it's vague enough that it informs the volunteer that we are going to do a check, and I think that's the goal, right? Like, we want to be transparent, and it says it on the paper, and so we're just trying to be consistent. Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor? Thank you. We have so much unfinished business, but we're not going to talk about any of it tonight. New business, item 13. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval? You probably should just come back up, Kelly, because you're going to talk about this. consideration and approval that pursuant to Section 1485-4 of Title 20A, the Finance Committee be authorized to transfer not more than 5% of the total appropriation for any cost center in the FY26 operating budget to another cost center or among other cost centers, provided that the total FY26 fiscal year operating budget shall not be increased by such transfers. Kelly, thank you. Cheyenne?
I mean,
You do this every year.
I was going to say, this appears on the warrant every year. And as I mentioned earlier during my talk about the expenditures to date, budget to actual, this authorizes the Finance Committee to actually make transfers between articles up to the 5%. Now, we do also at the annual budget meeting allow the board to go over that 5%, but that would take a vote of the full board to do. So because we don't want, not that we don't want the whole board to consider it, but because you have nominated a finance committee to represent you and review the finances, this authorizes the finance committee to do that less than 5%, which you can, via statute, you can actually do as a board without like an annual budget meeting vote, as Mr. Im explained to us at last year's budget meeting. This authorizes the finance committee to do it on behalf of the board, and then we report out in our minutes if that was to happen.
And this is for next year. So last year we voted on, and the transfer that Kelly mentioned we will likely have to make, before June 30 of this year. We voted on that last year. So this is the authority for the upcoming year.
Correct.
I say it out loud because it confuses me every time. Any other questions? All those in favor? Great, none opposed. All right, so we are on to item 14. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ a 7th grade science teacher at the Freeport Middle School for the 25-26 school year? Steph and Kara, thank you.
So tonight I present Deborah Antle. She has a bachelor's in math education and a master's in urban education from Simmons College in Massachusetts. She holds a K-8 teacher certification. She has a wide professional experience. She's been a 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher in New Orleans. She's been a grade 5 teacher at Community Day Charter School in Lawrence, Mass., and a grade 5 teacher at Neighborhood House Charter School in Dorchester, Mass. She's taught 6th grade at Lincoln Elementary School in Augusta, and she's been a grade 4 curriculum consultant in Somerville Public Schools in Somerville, Mass. She's been a grade 5-6 looping teacher at Lisbon Community for 7 years, and she's just finishing now 5 years as a grade 7 math science teacher at Phillips Middle School in Lisbon. References describe Deborah as having strong academic knowledge, a teacher leader, always does what is best for kids, is a positive member of the community. She seeks out feedback, affects others with her enthusiasm and drive, and her impact transcends far beyond the classroom.
Thank you. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any comments, questions? All those in favor? Thank you. Welcome, Deb. Deb's in the crowd right here.
I've loved the cell phone conversation. By
Yeah. We may pick your brain a little, how other middle schools are doing it.
Sure.
All right, so the next item is 14B. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ a .5 RTI reading teacher at the Pownell Elementary School for the 25-26 school year, 1 year only? Cheyenne and Malik, thank you.
I present Chelsea Nugent, and her name will be very familiar to you because she is already an employee of us in pre-K. So Chelsea has a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and Human Development with early childhood education concentration from Wheelock College in Boston. She has a Master's of Education in Curriculum and Instruction with a concentration in dyslexia studies and language-based learning disabilities from Southern New Hampshire College. She holds state and Maine certification in early elementary and an early elementary endorsement. She's been a teacher at North Star Education in Bedford, New Hampshire. She's been a .5 pre-K teacher and a .5 literacy interventionist at Durham. So she's done this role before, and she's currently a .5 pre-K teacher at Durham for the past 2 years. So she is returning to help us out for this 1 year only in this position, for a position that she has already done for us before and did a wonderful job. So we certainly are looking forward to welcoming her back.
Wonderful. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Great. None opposed. All right, so do I have a motion for C, consideration and approval to employ a second grade teacher at the Moore Street School for the 25-26 school year? Mara and Danielle?
So be another familiar name to the board, Megan Taylor. Megan has a bachelor's in elementary ed from Eastern University in Pennsylvania, and she holds O2O elementary certification. Her professional experience, she's been a school improvement teacher at Portland Public Schools and a grade 2 teacher in Brunswick. She currently is a grade 2 1 year only teacher at Moore Street School this year. So references describe Megan as open to feedback and coaching. She builds classroom community so all students are connected. She's a team player, has an unwavering commitment to students, and fosters a safe and inclusive environment where all students thrive.
Yeah, Colin.
This is for this candidate, but also for all of the candidates. I just want to say how exciting it is to see how many candidates we're getting for these positions, and I think that just speaks to so much about RSU 5 and the culture and community that is created by our teachers and our administrators and our students. But it's just really exciting to know that we're getting when we're choosing someone from a lot of options.
Agreed. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Wonderful, none opposed. Item D, do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ a first grade teacher at the Durham Community School for the 25-26 school year? We'll do Beth and Kelly. Trying to share the love on who gets the first and the second.
Okay. I present to you Tatum Hayward. Tatum has a bachelor's in elementary ed from University of Maine at Orono, and she holds Maine elementary teacher certification. Her professional experience, she's been a student teacher, substitute teacher at Rowe Elementary School, a student teacher, substitute teacher at Jameson Elementary School, and right now, since January 2025, she's been a grade 1 long-term substitute right here at Durham Community School. References describe Tatum as building positive relationships, having a warm and welcoming presence, generally committed to student growth and well-being, a collaborative and dependable team member. She applies feedback seamlessly into instruction. Her teaching is powerful and effective. She actively reflects on her practice. She is responsive to the needs of students and is adept at planning lessons that are both accessible and challenging.
Wonderful. Comments, questions on Tatum? All those in favor? Great, none opposed. All right, so this was our adjustment to the agenda, item E. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ a fourth grade teacher at the Durham Community School for the 2025-2026 school year? Stefan Mora, thank you.
I present Kylie Dannon. She has a bachelor's in psychology from State University of New York at Stony Brook and a master's in K-6 education at Relay Graduate School of Education in New York. She holds Maine's elementary teacher certification. Her professional experience, she's been a teacher in grades 1 through 4 and 6 at South Bronx Classical Charter School in New York for 5 years. References describe Kylie as positive, patient, and kind, great in the classroom. She connects well with children and parents. She's respected, hungry to learn, immediately implements feedback, responsive to data, great in differentiation, respected by colleagues, and she's focused and driven. And she did share with me when we did our second interview that she's very much looking forward to coming here to Maine, working at Durham, and is very happy that she'll have a lovely commute in beautiful Maine and be not on the subway in New York City for 45 minutes.
That was my first thought. I was like, oh gosh, South Bronx to Durham. That's quite the culture shock, perhaps. Wonderful. Comments or questions on Kylie? All those in favor? None opposed. Welcome, Kylie. Public comment? Looking at you, Deb. You good?
I'm good.
We have another community member in the back. You're good? Okay. We get personal attention at the end of these meetings because no one stays. All right. Well, then I would take a motion to adjourn. Danielle, everybody. You can pick. You can pick, Cynthia. Kara and Danielle. All those in favor? Thank you, guys. Don't forget, we meet next week.